this is Sean back with another episode of All Things Black. I have a new friend here.
So, hi, hello. My name is Vanessa, and I am the CEO and founder of Go Be Dope. Um, and I'm a personal trainer, model, and I live here in California in San Diego. So, if you ever want training or any modeling tips, you can go to gobedope.com.
Okay, so me and Esther are going to talk about colorism today. So our first question is, what does the word colorism mean to you?
Okay, so first let's break it down. Ism is more of like an action or a principle. So anything before that, if it's colorism, it's just having like an action or like a principle against, or not so much as against, but as far as color, you have an action towards color or a certain principle towards that. So what does it mean to me? I don't know.
Just
Yeah.
some action towards color. Yeah. Okay. Um, what do you think are some examples of colorism?
Well, if you've seen or not heard of like Zoe Saldana and like Nina Simone, like the movie. I think that's a prime example of it. For those who don't know, Nina Simone is a phenomenal, or was a phenomenal musician, and she was darker. So they did like a movie, biopic movie for Nina Simone, and they cast Zoe Saldana, who is of a lighter hue, a little bit lighter. She is a woman of color, but a little bit lighter, and
Right.
they put her in dark face. So that is one example of colorism. Not to say that she could not do or could not act or anything like that, but just to blackface a black person. There are other people who could definitely do that. And then another example is like the Fresh Prince, the dark skin Ambia versus the light skin Ambia. Their acting styles are totally different, but that's how the world kind of like differentiates, not
Mhm.
just the original and then the walk on, but the dark skin and the light skin one. So
Yep. Okay. Why do you believe some people have negative attitudes about dark skin?
I think it kind of stems from, honestly, I think it stems from slavery in
Yeah.
a sense of like just being, you're darker, so or you're lighter, so you're better,
Right.
darker, so you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what role do you believe traditional media has in perpetuating colorist stereotypes?
Uh, Commercial, magazines, just advertisement in general. Um, Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what role do you believe colorism plays in dating and marriage? If you think it plays a role.
I think I think that it does.
Yeah.
Um, how can in a sense of like you like lighter skin versus dark skin. It's not so much as everybody does that, but I do think that it does play into a part. Like if I'm really dark and he really dark, he is gonna be really dark. Do I really want a really dark baby or something like that? So it does play into like dating and marriage, um,
Hmm.
in some aspects. Not for everybody, but it can.
Yeah. It definitely plays a role in our community, and a lot of people do date based on how they want their baby to look.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you believe is the difference between colorism and preference?
Uh, I actually, so colorism in a sense is you're taking like an action or a principle like towards the color in itself, but then as far as preference, it's being able to have the opportunity to choose, not so much as like, yeah, just it's being able to choose, not based on what it is that you want, but not because of, yeah, it's preference, colorism. There's colorism, and then as far as preference, you can choose having the opportunity to choose from a different color or a color or something like that. So as far as colorism, It is just basing stuff off of just color, and then as far as preference, it's not so much as just the color, but like
Okay.
the other attributes to it. I guess you could say that you can
Okay.
see.
How do you believe gender intersects with colorism?
Uh, I think it's more of the first thing that just came to mind is having a light skin, or I hope I have a. This is something that I've heard like back in the day. Like I hope I have a like a boy versus a girl. I hope like having a. I hope my dark skin my daughter is not like super dark skin. I'd rather have a dark skin son than a dark skin girl.
Yeah, that's something you can hear today.
Like I haven't heard. I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't heard that like recently or anything like that, but I
Mhm.
know that definitely plays into just being able to like gender, and it that stems from being a baby. So of course, it as you get older, it kind of perpetuates.
Yeah, it's more acceptable to be a dark skinned male than it is to be a
Mm-hmm.
dark skinned woman, especially in like dating and marriage, because the dark skinned man is like the pinnacle of manliness.
Mm-hmm.
And like everybody wants a dark skinned man, but that doesn't transfer over to, well, it does transfer over to the woman, but in a negative way. The dark skinned woman is seen as more masculine, more aggressive, more so. And then for like light skinned people, you have the light skinned woman that's preferred. But as far as the light skinned man, those positive traits that people
Yeah.
give the light skinned women go to the men. They're feminine. They're
Yep.
so it's definitely, yeah.
It's a transference of what, again, like as far as like the not so much the colorism but the colorism that perpetuates from media. Like, so not even, let's not even go with just media, just society, because it's not just media, it's society, because you don't have to be exposed to it like via magazine and all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah. Okay. Um, do you believe colorism is institutionalized? Like, do you think it affects jobs, socioeconomic status, prison sentences, etc.? Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a pretty, yeah,
Let me see. So yes, it does, and I say that in the sense of like if you whether it's a like diversity hires, you can think of from prisons to being hired, um, even let's go with prisons like separating people by color.
yeah. That's true.
Okay, institution that's an institution. Um, as far as like corporate, perhaps if like you, um, yeah, just diversity hires. Like even with diversity hires, and I'm not saying this is across the board, but having like racially ambiguous people to
Yeah, it's true.
ask for
Yeah,
that diversity or something like that. That's definitely something that you can see in social media. Just going through different websites or whatever. For the most part, you're going to see more racially ambiguous because
yeah,
more pleasing, if you will, versus somebody who's darker or has a wider nose, anything else
it's
that
true.
that moves away from like the European censored kind of standard of beauty and color and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and they found like that. Like I know one study found that a light skinned man with a bachelor's was more employable than a dark skinned man with a MBA and managerial experience. They found that darker skinned people were more likely to get longer sentences, more likely to get the death penalty. Um, as far as with women, lighter skinned women are more likely. Now, if it came down to them being on like the same, now it's not as bad as with men, like that a dark skinned woman from these studies that a dark skinned woman can have more education and not get picked and over a light skinned woman with less education. It came down more to if both of them had the same education, then all things considered, the one they would choose would be the light skinned woman. So, I
Maybe
mean, yeah,
more racially ambiguous.
right. And closer to white. I mean,
Oh,
it's just,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Okay. Um, all right, so we got questions. So, do you have any personal experiences with colorism?
Um, I remember being in grammar school. There was a girl. She was darker, and she was like a joke. Like she would joke around all the time, but people would call her like burnt, and like that was like one of her punchlines. But they were like, "Oh, you like you so dark, you burnt or whatever," or hearing like you having like you so black, you blue or something like that. Like I used hearing that on the playground, and I remember in junior high, it was like the craziest thing because I was like, this is, like because you're different, like we all black, but you're darker, so it was like a targeted thing, just to be able to make fun of it. And then on the same, on the other side of that, I had a light skinned friend who, and it was a guy, but the guys used to like hit him so they could see like, and I was like, they used to like playing or whatever, just like all the guys, whatever, be like, oh look at white, look at white boy, because they could see the marks or whatever a little bit better. And I was like, and this is like in the same class, same grade, and every
Mm-hmm.
seeing a girl being targeted because she's too black, seeing a boy being targeted because he's too light, and everybody that's the butt of the joke.
Yeah,
Like, and to me, it was I knew like then, of course, it was like this. No, you can't do that or whatever. But it was more of just seeing how they even interacted because then they would in turn talk about um talk about people who are lighter than them. The girl would be talking about the white, like oh you so white or whatever, and he's like get your black stuff, and it was like they were the butt of the jokes, but then they would talk about each other. you know.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it didn't make it any better because you're in junior high. Everybody else is egging them, like egging them on or whatever. So that is something that I saw in grammar school. And then also being um, like friends with like white people. Um, Not to say that I didn't have white friends or anything like that, but it was always um, you would see like white friends who had like lighter skin friends versus like darker skin friends.
Yeah, that's a thing.
hmm
Yeah. Okay. Um. So our last two questions are: Who is responsible for breaking the cycle of colorism, and do you believe colorism will ever end?
Was responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as far as being able, like, I guess it would be a societal thing. How can we stop it? Yes, it could be stopped, but I'm like, it's not to be a negative Nancy or anything like that. But when I think of if colorism doesn't exist, will another ism arise
Yeah.
within it to replace it. Um, so it takes people of the same background and ethnicity and race and everything to put that stuff aside because it's already out there for everybody else. So when you do it within your own community, it only separates you, it further divides you, and it makes it easier for people to separate you from the outside. And then, yeah, what could it? I think it could. It would take a long time because it's a collective mindset, not just it's individuals, but as individuals, we have to have a collective mindset again within our community that changes the way that other people look at us, but we can't change how people view
Right.
hues. And I'm saying hues from yes, the black community, but this also extends to like other races and stuff too.
Yeah.
Really
The
just
Hispanic community, the Asian community, the Indian community, mostly all minority communities have like serious issues with colorism. Some worse than others. Like Asian countries, I would argue that theirs is a little worse because they have like, well, I don't want to say that. I would argue that theirs is a little more extensive because they have like bleaching creams and all of their soaps and lotions and um, they have billboards with advertisements. Where I went to school for a little bit in Thailand, they advertise bleaching stuff,
yeah.
and the girls at school wear umbrellas over their faces, like in 100-degree weather, so that
Mhm.
they won't get darker. So
Yeah. I was gonna say the umbrellas and stuff. It's not, of course, protect your skin, everybody protect your skin, whatever. But
Right.
also just thinking about just a tidbit as far as the Asian culture. So there's like the white rice and black rice. So black rice is actually more nutritious and dense and everything, but in ancient times or whatever, black rice was for like the dynasties and the elite.
Right.
Not just because of the nutrition, but they would use the rice water for their skin to nourish it because it was, yeah, to nourish their skin and to give them an even glow.
Mhm.
Like,
I read something kind of like that last night. From this lady. Um, I can't think of her name right now, but she was talking about how like some foods that we use are bleached for like I guess aesthetics. Like sugar. Sugar is brown. Rice is brown,
yes,
and we bleach it to
how
white.
you've got like wheat flour that can be bleached. You can buy wheat flour, which wheat is brown, but you
Wheat
can
is brown.
bleach
Yeah.
white flour.
We don't like black. We don't like. We have a problem. I think with it extends to everything with animals. We don't like. You have like black cats. We don't like, and black dogs are least likely to be adopted. And then I think about like the shoes, like Air Force Ones. How people love white Air Force Ones, but the black ones mean you're hood or you're ratchet or you rob people. So it's just it extends to everything. White is good. Black is bad.
Hmm.
So okay.
Unfortunately, that's how society puts it, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's because one, not having conversations about it, and then number two, not being able to see the value in the difference because and you going from food to like if you have food, and I'm going with darker foods.
Yeah.
Look, I'm in fitness, but darker foods, richer, denser foods are always going to be more expensive, and the foods that have less nutrition, the nutrition is stripped out of it or additives and stuff is going to be cheaper. Not all the time, but for the most part, it's easier to get a salad, or I'm sorry, a dollar burger than a salad.
It is. Yeah.
It's easier to, it's like it's easier to get something that is help, not so much as like, yeah, helpful and useful. So a pair of Air Force Ones, they the same price.
Yeah, right. And people, I mean, I have seen people go on and on about the difference, but I'm just like, it's so telling that the white ones I see it as just a great shoe to wear, but the black ones are you a thug. I don't get that. That's so crazy to me. That's just blackness being associated with just all the bad things.
Yes.
Because why else?
Not the case at all. No.
How is it possible that they're just different shoes other than the color?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Do you see that colorism is an issue like in the modeling industry?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I
Um,
talked to another girl and she said something similar.
it's very like I think it's I'm different. I'm black. I don't have hair. So when I walk into a casting or anything else, I see long hair, blonde, whatever. And of course, I'll see other again, they're usually like racially ambiguous or something like that.
Yeah.
But bigger, fuller hair, but daintier noses or whatever. And when you walk into a room or you go in for something, like for me, I automatically like I have to scan the room like, okay, well, I already know that I stand out, but what is, like, who am I up against?
Yeah.
Um, and then even going to be able to meet with people sometimes, and I've heard this, I've gotten emails for it. Um, you're beautiful, but you might fare better in a edgier agency. You're not the look you're not the look that we're going for right now. But then you go into their model pages and it's everybody like 20 profile pictures of their models, and it's no people who look like me. So, um, oftentimes, like even like going for different agencies or whatever, I would go through like all their models, their like the models that they do have, just to see what's going on. And so I'm like, okay, perhaps I could have a chance. But now I look at it and I'm like, do you really, for me to do it, it's not a waste of time, but even to be able to put myself in there, would I be a diversity? Like just to be able to paint like another diversity picture for people like me scrolling through so they can say, oh, they do have a black girl or a black woman or a bald woman or something, somebody who's different. So I do think about that stuff. I know that I can't stop people from thinking that about me, so I have to do what I have to do, shine, do work.
Right.
But
Regardless.
it does definitely go into to not just modeling, but how people perceive you as a professional as well, because they're not looking to see a black model in an industry who can who can speak well. It's automatically like a look away versus trying to get to know a person or anything, which is
Right.
it's really surface. It's not that it really is skin deep in a sense, but once you are able to work with people, you understand that whether they are white, because I have like photographers and models that I've worked with or whatever, there is a difference in being able to see just that, like as far as colorism and how they perceive it in the modeling industry versus the creativity. And it's unfortunate that sometimes you have to cross over into something to work with people in order to prove yourself based off
Mm.
of your color versus what it is that you can bring to the table. But like I said, modeling is surface, so they look at you and they can just keep scrolling. That's the industry. But yeah, you can see it often.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was my last question. I appreciate you coming in here and talking with me today, Vanessa. Um, yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, in that case, look, go be dope.
Yes, go be dope. And
Conversation going. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
You too. Peace.
Bye.